Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome here at Crypto Hash Review, where we educate and disseminate information about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies from a Muslim perspective. And we are continuing on our video series about what the fatwa happened in 1971. And this was the moment when Richard Nixon decoupled the dollar from the gold standard, and it was supposed to be a temporary measure. And we see, as we've seen in previous videos, is that when you decouple the currency from actual work and labor, as in to make money attached to actually doing something, then and you leave that policy or the money creation policy down to the whims of human intervention and specifically debt, then we see a completely different situation, how it affects almost every part of society. But interestingly enough, I want to do this video. We're gonna talk about the federal debt, the debt that a government has to pay back. Now, before we move on to this, it's important to realize that when it comes to the national debt or the federal debt or whatever debt it may be in the country, federal is American, but whatever the debt is in whichever country it is effectively the government takes out loans on your behalf, and then you pay taxes to pay the loan. So let's not misunderstand how the system works. You are not paying taxes for them to use your taxes to do something else. They take out loans, and then your taxes pay back those loans. It's a completely different situation. Don't think of taxes as being my taxes pay for this. No, the things were already paid for. Your taxes have now gone to pay back a loan. Now, some may say that's semantics. Obviously, if I pay back a debt, if I owe the money and it's being spent, then it is what it is. But what that means is that, number one, that debt is not a free, a debt that you just take out and you pay it back. It's an interest-bearing loan. So effectively, you're paying back a lot more than it costs to do whatever the government says they're going to do. Because the central banks, they charge interest. And whoever else support the bonds, they charge interest. So effectively, you are feeding those individuals who are making all this money by issuing debts and loans. So this is where you see the money of the people is slowly creeping upwards to the rich. So if government needs 2.5 trillion, then that 2.5 trillion will be provided by the rich at interest. They'll use that 2.5 trillion to build hospitals, build roads, whatever they need to do. And then you're thinking you're paying for the road, but you're not. You're paying for this guy who's given his money to do that. So it's a very different scenario. And why I've mentioned in a previous video that essentially we are all debt slaves. We are all debt slaves. And this is why we find we're always encouraged by society, by government, by TV programs to get a mortgage, get a home, put yourself into further debt. So not only are you already in debt by the national debt, you also want to be further in debt by getting student loans, getting mortgage, getting a car and finance, further, deeper and deeper in debt, basically turning yourself into a workhorse that basically works just to finance the debt. So the banks can become rich off of your money, the central banks can become rich off your money, and so on and so forth. That's effectively what it is. As opposed to if you work for your money and spend within your means, and the banks have no income from you, that's how we should be living, that's what we should be aiming for. But moving forward, here we have federal debt in percentage of GDP. So again, we see moments of catastrophe. The government needs to spend to feed a war, so they print money and they get whatever. So Civil War, First World War, the Great Depression, Second World War, and we start seeing things even out in terms of the debt compared to what people are producing. Until 1971, where everything turned other way around because obviously it's debt-based. And now we see ourselves in a situation whereby we are projected to be worse than the Second World War. As in, we're not at war, but we're more in debt than we were at war, the World War. This is in 1971, and this was projected moving forward. Same thing here. We have gross federal debt held by the public as percentage of GDP. So again, how much of the debt that is in the that effectively we owe to central banks as it relates to GDP. So it wasn't a decrease until this moment, when now it's on the increase again. What's interesting again is to highlight or to realize that we are reaching levels of, or in some cases even surpassed, levels of being at a world war. The national debts in US between 1990 and 2020, this one is absolutely horrific. Just look at that. So this is to do with each line, each number here is to do with trillions of dollars on a linear scale. Now linear as opposed to logarithmic scale. Let's not go into that. But yeah. So there was a war, and the US debt increased less than $1 trillion, and it kind of was on an increase up until Nixon did what he did, and now we see this ballooning. And it kind of slowed down about him. And you're going to start seeing this quite often near the end of the 90s, beginning of the 20s. Interesting enough, that man, Bill Clinton, actually did, on some metrics and some scales, quite good. And I guess probably some might argue maybe that's why they got rid of him, or they did what they did with him. But after that, just absorb that for a second. Just absorb this. Now too, it says here, 23 point something trillion, the national debt. Now, what's interesting, what's sad about this is that already now within 1 year, this line is actually, we're above right now over 25 trillion. So just add a line right here, just for 1 year. So this year here, which was, I guess, 2020, the beginning of 2020, not because after 2020, we've ballooned. So in 1 year, due to, well, they say, the thing is, they say due to COVID. But look, is this due to COVID? And even if you just look at this line here, and then this line here, and then here to where we are now, we were already on that trajectory. COVID has maybe revealed some realities, but it hasn't made it happen. It was already happening, look. And same kind of thing here, liabilities going up and that kind of stuff. This is another one, US deficit surplus versus GDP. So deficit surplus basically means that deficit means that they are spending more than they are making, the country, and surplus means you are making more than you are spending. So if everyone's working and paying enough taxes and that kind of stuff, there's a surplus. They're making more than what they are spending. So generally speaking, First World War, obviously there's massive spending because there's a war effort. Great Depression, massive spending, helping people out. For Second World War, massive spending because there's a war. And then we have this issue of surplus, and then we have this continuous decline. Now, this one's interesting because I don't think this is really evidence for what happened in 1971. I mean, you could say that from this moment, we never got above this 0% line, which means they're always in deficit, except for, like I said, this period here with Bill Clinton. I don't know what he did, but he poked his head up and had a little bit of surplus, and then after that, we're back down here. Wow. We're almost at levels. I guess now we're already at level because I'm sure this is old by a bit, by a year maybe. But but we're almost at World War I levels of deficit, meaning that the government is spending more than it's actually earning. Spending more than that's actually earning. Now this thing here, this part here, this and this, I'm not sure if the Iraqi war was part of this or not. But anyway, that's the spending. Same thing we see here. Surplus deficit, so pretty much stagnant until Second World War happened here, until bang, we have this madness again. Clinton, I don't know what he did. He did something. And this is the same things over and over again. It's just talking about S&P 500. It's basically S&P 500. If anyone heard the word Dow Jones, S&P 500, Nasdaq, basically these are like pots of companies, and they put it all together. So if you qualify to be in the S&P, then your valuation of your company is added to the S&P 500. So it's like a pocket. So rather than you invest in specific companies, you can invest in the S&P, which is basically all of them. And you can get the increase and decrease, and you can basically even out the ups and downs. So some company within S&P 500 would go down, or some would go up. But then there's the overall movement. So here it's saying how much would it cost, how much working hours, how many hours you have to work to buy one stock of the S&P 500, going from back then. I didn't even know it was going on for that long, but yeah. So since 1971, there was a sharp drop. Like I said, during the 70s, there was a moment where it kind of played out, and then after that, it's been an increase, whereby the number of hours you need to work just to get one stock has gone from less than 20 hours to now over 120 hours. Same thing again with leverage trading and productivity. Productivity is increasing, but in terms of futures trading and speculative trading, that's gone through the roof, and so on and so forth. I hope you've enjoyed this video. We're going to continue with the further videos explaining what happened after 1971 when you decouple the currencies from the US dollar. Sorry, when you decouple the US dollar from something solid and grounded in reality, which is gold. Because you have to work to get gold. You can't just fabricate it because you want to. And the ramifications of that was wide and affecting almost everything. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, check out our website. We've got lots of articles and videos, and you can book a call with us if you so wish. And may Allah give you plenty Bitcoin and save you from inflation. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.